Coming to you this week from Buckhead here in almost downtown Atlanta, Midtown. Excited to have all of you here. It's a great time to be in this business. It's a great time to be in the entrepreneur world. A lot of bombshells going off in this past week, and we'll talk a little bit about them. But these are very special times. Between now and the time we go to our convention, which is about the third week of July, there's so many things that are on the line. One is it gives you a chance with momentum to get your business built and to have liftoff. Don't you want to achieve liftoff? Isn't that what you want? Is to go put in the effort? Is there any better feeling? Well, first of all, one of the worst feelings is to look in the mirror and know that you're at least 90 days from looking any better than you're looking now. Sometimes some of you know that feeling. I think I've had that a few times where you're like, golly, I want to get in shape, but I know it's going to suck for a little while. But then you start getting a little bit of just a little bit of hope. Things change a little bit. And this business is the same way. Think about how good it's going to feel when you walk into the convention. Not only getting the ancillary awards that go with it, but knowing that your business that you've achieved liftoff. You can do something in 90 days that's going to last you for the rest of your life. That's how powerful this business is. I really want you to understand that. The second thing that I want you to understand is what's on the line. Right now, there's a Europe trip that has started. You're in the middle of a Europe contest that you may not even know is happening. It is going now. And everything that you do in April, May, and June is double points. That's a big deal. Get it done, front and load this thing. And then within that, you can be rest assured that we're going to have some contests going within our team. We're going to have a Puerto Rico contest because there's some of you that, they're going to be challenged when it comes to passports and things like that. We're going to recognize you and have a great time with that also. So we're really excited about the things we're going to be talking about there. We still got the equity push that we have going on. You have all these wonderful things happening. So, and then you got to make up your mind right now that you're going to walk across that stage when you get to Las Vegas, that you can see yourself there and you're going to walk across that stage. So that's taking place. Also, guys, around us, people, we're in a world of craziness. Kimberly, why don't you just take a second and kind of tell them a little bit about what happened with a Modere story? And these are powerful. You're talking about big changes, people that have gone out and had hopes and dreams with all these different companies to wake up to some crazy news. Tell them a little bit about what happened last week with that.
Yeah, so there was a company called Modere. That's a traditional network marketing company. I used their products and loved their products and follow a lot of their upper level leadership, just watching what they do with their teams and things like that. And last week, just on a random day, one of the head guys in that organization posted a memo from Modere to his entire to the world that Modere sent out and said, after 23 years, we regretfully have to tell you that we're closing our doors. So these people made multiple $1 million a year. It was Friday was payday, right? They were supposed to be paid on Friday. On Friday, they'd filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy. No one got paid their commissions that they were due for that week, much less anything else ongoing. And everybody, that entire world, like if you go to Facebook and you type in Modere, you're going to see everybody's stories, but their entire world is scrambling. And my heart bleeds for them, right? Because you guys know how hard it is to build a recruiting and building agency. And when you finally get it and you've got that momentum and it's viral and exciting and all of your blood, sweat, and tears has gone into it, can you imagine it being gone literally overnight? Like gone, like
That's wild.
lights went out, like over. And it's devastating for them. So now they're, all these people had built this residual income and, or just planning to pay their bills for it or whatever. And now they're like, oh gosh, what do I do? They got to start over fast or their people are going somewhere else because there are vultures everywhere like, come to me, come to me, come to me. And so anyway, whether it's that story or Rodan Fields or Beachbody or, a lot of them that we've heard lately, Advocare a few years ago, it's great. Well, it's great, but it's not a stable world in that industry. And to have the ability to recruit and build here, but also in the financial services industry, you don't have the volatility or the what ifs if the company fails, if the company changes their business model, if the company goes out of business. You have the stability of the industry
Mhm.
and also HGI and also integrity behind you. To me, that's huge.
Yes, absolutely. And guys, listen, that does not mean all of you to go after the Modera people. That is
No,
not even
they're not going
the
to talk to you
message
right
of
now.
this. That's not the message. The message is that we are building something that's going to last. You're building a generational, intergenerational company for yourself and for your family. And listen, we have the greatest story in American business, a combination of the LFS with the leadership story of Hubert and all the great leaders, and then the combination of the whole HGI story, and then combine that with the integrity story at the right time in the market. Are you kidding me? We should be out like this Paul Revere, just telling everybody all these incredible things. So that's exciting, and that's something that's we got to be grateful for in a world of instability and change. That we have a sure thing if unless we are the ones who cannot go do it. And I just got a text from Kathy, by the way, because she actually went through some similar to that, even within the financial services world.
Yeah.
Because, by the way, there's a couple of you got to make sure you're with the right leaders, the right industry. Because listen, real quick, I know Zach, I think you're going to say something. Understand that what took down this Modera company was they just didn't run the business on the numbers the way they didn't do something wrong. No one regulatory shut them down. It wasn't leaders who were bad people. It's just that the numbers didn't work. I mean, you're talking about some guys who were the investors from the outside came in, wanted their money back, and didn't have a long-term vision. So understand you have to have the right money backing, the right leaders with the right vision, the right products and the right system, and all that's got to work for you to be successful. And then everybody's got to be honest and full of integrity. What were you going to say, Zach?
I was just going to say that if you look and you talk about track record and leadership, if you look at people that built agencies within A.L. Williams, people that built agencies within WMA, and people that have built agencies here, I would be pretty comfortable where we are, not with the size of your team, but with the location of your team. And that's the other side of that story, right? That's the real story you got to wrap your head around. That leadership slide brings a whole new power punch when you talk about things like this, because
absolutely.
I mean, Hubert's fingers are all over the industry, right? And understand that and know that you're on solid ground to build a monstrous organization that will go nowhere unless you do.
Great point. Fantastic. All right, so let's get into our program. Tim, we're excited to hear from you because this is actually a perfect segue to what we're hearing from you, because you do represent the stability side and the integrity side, and so love to hear from you for a couple of minutes.
Hey, Jody. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, this is we're in some interesting times. Just talking about our stability is so important here, because we're definitely in a major shift going on right now in world trade, in market volatility. I think everybody's watched. We keenly watched the migration of a major policy change in the United States on the world stage, and why this is so important, and why it's so important to all of us to be keenly aware of what is going on. So let me just kind of frame this up for a quick second. This is a policy-induced market volatility situation we're in right now. Okay, what does that mean? Basically, President Trump's tariff policies that, underlying everything is his belief that we've got to have a baseline tariff of 10% on all products coming into the United States. Okay, and on top of that, he's also adding tariffs on countries basically that are out of balance with the U.S. And then he goes and puts a 90-day halt on it, and I'll come back to that in a second. But in this whole process, this is kind of disturbing something that's been going on for 100 years now. Imagine for 100 years, there's been trade going on that other countries have putting different things on, like tariffs. But each country does this in different ways too. They have not only tariffs, they have value added taxes, they have tariffs, they have different ways of adjusting their currency and things like that, of playing with the way that they adjust the trade with products made in the U.S. So we've become a consumption country versus a manufacturing country over these many years. So no longer is the U.S. looked at as a manufacturing country. So let's look at what this has done recently with this announcement back in the first part of April. As the dollar has weakened, number one, dollar was very strong, and now the dollar is under attack. The euro is gaining some strength against the dollar, other currencies as well. The U.S. Treasuries, there's a lot of foreign countries, obviously, since we have a trade deficit, they're buying our treasuries, and now they're dumping our treasuries in retaliation to our new policy, which drives prices up basically, and they're questioning the value or the safe haven of the U.S. Treasury markets. That's a big deal. And that's what caused President Trump to basically throw out that 90-day pause that he recently announced. Oil prices have been substantially lower because a lot of people are starting to now believe that we're going to go into a worldwide recession because of these trade policy stances that we're taking. So if you think about China and the U.S., we're the two largest economies, right? U.S. much larger, but still China is a large oil consumption country, and obviously population-wise too. So the China and U.S. are the largest oil consumers as well. And when you start throwing all these companies out there that are in the tech sector, this is why shares of NVIDIA, Apple, Meta, all these tech companies are lower too, is because their fear is obviously a lot of the components that are built in China, because we rely on them to build the phones over there. They're thinking now that the iPhone that maybe it costs $1,200 could go to $2,000 to as much as $300 to $3,500 for the current iPhone, the higher end ones. So you're seeing a lot of that kind of disruption, basically massive uncertainty in the market. And as we all know, the markets don't like that uncertainty. And so there's an index out there called the VIX. It's a volatility index. And what the VIX is saying recently is hit as much as 50 on the VIX. And what the VIX really kind of measures, it measures the deviation basically of the movement of prices, both up and down. So a normal VIX is probably around 12, 15, 18, right in there. When it hit 50, that was like everybody kind of got shook. And so there's different types of various deviations, the standard deviation, beta, and implied volatility. And so what it measures is the index, let's say, of the S&P 500. So when it saw that variation in one day go from way up to way down, it measures that index volatility. And when the VIX starts hitting that 40, 50 range, that sends the market into, that tells you that we got a lot of uncertainty in the market. And so when you see those kind of spikes, and then you see these CEOs that get polled out there that say, they're saying that we're seeing a 60% chance. I think you may have seen that in my notes. 60% chance is what they're estimating of a worldwide recession. And then you get these forecasts of unemployment going from 4.2 to 4.7. And the unemployment part is we haven't seen unemployment really scale up yet because the government layoffs haven't really taken effect yet because they're still getting paid. The people that have been laid off in DC and different places around the world are still drawing a paycheck.
Listen to Tim, I'll get ready to turn it over the rest of the way. We've been visiting.
Do it, man. But all right.
Yeah, they're going to get us a table so we can cut
Okay.
something to eat here in a minute.
I think it's all the
Let me see if I can find him. Oh, there he goes. Sorry, Tim.
What's that?
I said, sorry about that. Jody's muted. Go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
yeah, no worries. And so basically, what's going on here is you're going to see this this massive unemployment move here shortly, probably more towards the end of the year, which is good for all of us to be aware of, because I think it gives us a recruiting opportunity. So more and more people out there are going to be looking for an income opportunity, because you're going to see a spike in unemployment. Ray Dalio also, I noted this recently, that he's also concerned about the global monetary system because of this turmoil in bonds and growing U.S. debt. So you see all this stuff being piled on, and people are starting to get nervous. You see a spike in auto sales lately because there are people out there trying to buy cars before the tariff thing lays in, and different products and services. So I think we're going to have a good year this year still. It's going to be volatile, spiky, but people are getting nervous, and this is a great time for us. Like Jody was just saying there at the beginning of this conversation, we're in the right place, the right time, the right industry. All of this is coming together at a perfect time for us to really go out and tell our story, to go out and help people. So that's my comments. Any questions? I'm glad to field any questions at this time. If not, back to you, Jody.
Well, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it so much. And I think it's so important that we stay on the cutting edge of this, because I'm sitting there looking at a big TV screen with all the things going on in the world. I know people are confused and scared. They don't know what all of it means. So help us every week. Thank you. We're really excited now. We're going to turn it over to Mauricio. He's got some phenomenal things to show you, and he'll be followed by Zach. Basically taking some of the things he said and applying it right back to each one of us. So Mauricio, can't wait to hear from you.
Hey, pleasure to be here. Hello, everybody. I'll be quick, for 25 minutes. So we're basically going to share some of the additional tools that we have at our disposal to produce, right? Recruiting is one thing, but getting the outlets to produce is another. And let me show you, because pictures tell the story better than I can say. I can share this with you guys just if you need like a quick reference on what are those 4 pillars that we always talk about, right? We have the Aristotle, Advisors, Leader Mastery, and Abacus. I'm going to focus on today. It's becoming quickly a center where you'll be able to find specific types of software that can help you explain certain concept to your client that can move the money. Right? I have learned that it's the stories you tell, and it's also what you are able to articulate in a simple way that they get that epiphany with clarity, and they say, aha, now I get it. I feel comfortable moving forward to that annuity because I know the purpose it serves. I know how it aligns with my goals, my objectives. And same thing goes for an IUL, right? Or the other products that we have. And just quickly, if you ever wanted to directly get into this, is abacuswizard.com. It's one of the 4 pillars that support the HGI vehicle, right? It's like the 4 wheels on him to go. And just very briefly for 30 seconds, just in case there was somebody here that have not heard about the 3 common goals presentation, or common events, I also like to call it. This is a canned presentation. It is ideal for people that have less than 6 months in the business. This was a collaboration with Rory Douglas, with Zach and Kimberly, myself, with Jody, to bring together a piece that would help you go into a client's home or do it virtually or in anybody's office and be able to articulate a that can lead to you leaving that person or that family better protected on a road to accumulating wealth, tax-free, right? In other words, how the IUL incorporates into their portfolio, so they can have an asset class, that's the IUL, and also another source of tax-free income. Even if you didn't do like a truly holistic type of plan to get into more of a 360 type of recommendations. But this is very good. It can help you really get your feet wet in the industry, really, in terms of being able to produce. Because at the end of the day, it's the speed of recruiting, but also production. Now, eventually, I think we all will evolve into sort of more robust type of agents, right? More robust type of planners. And that's why we did this 3-meeting close process, which is the process you need to go through, and is the journey you need to take your clients through if you really want to be able to gather all the data, be able to take your time to analyze how you're going to leave them better than you found them in all areas, and then be able to deliver so much value by incorporating a lot of the products and services that we have that will make you worthy, obviously, of a much higher compensation than just walking in there, selling a term policy or maybe an IUL without really analyzing the situation. And there's this process is going to help you compress 20, 30 years of experience in one single process. As a matter of fact, I would say that if you spend the next week just understanding this process and the tools that support it, you would be very knowledgeable in terms of how you actually conduct a process like the real pros in the industries do it. So let me first explain what the process is and what you'll find as supporting tools. This is, after few years in the business and studying like the top agents, advisors in the country, I noticed that they did seminars, they did radios, they did presentations. They had some epiphany moment for the consumer that ignited that need or that desire to meet with that advisor to get a second opinion. They're just not going to meet with you unless they feel then that they need your opinion on whatever it is they're doing. And you do that by presenting something. And so we have the BOP, right? And we have other financial PowerPoint presentations that you can do in seminars, or you could do one-on-ones, you could do virtual, you could do in libraries, restaurants, wherever you can congregate people, you can do that. I can see if you just go on social media, you'll find some of the top producers at HGI, the Sadrudins, the Prashants, the Pretties, they're doing financial work seminars, they're doing financial workshops with business opportunity, right? I'm just saying that's one way to do it. You can put it the other way, which is financial opportunity and financial literacy. But it has to start here, where you educate about financial concepts and strategies to optimize the asset. Once you have that call to action at the end of that presentation, then that's where the first consultation comes in. This is your first meeting. This is where you're sitting down with the client and you are listening, actually more than you're talking. You're listening to gather the data to prepare a financial plan. You are gathering their goals, their dreams, the objectives, and I've not seen anybody do it better than Kimberly. She really breaks it down how you have that conversation to gather that data. This is what you're looking for in this first meeting. But then very rarely do you want to jump to make any recommendations at that moment, right? I mean, very rarely, because I say that, because if you find somebody that has absolutely nothing, they're not saving it, they have zero in assets accumulated, they have nothing, because that's what the data you gathered told you, and you're able to maybe give them a term policy to leave them better protected, maybe. But rarely will you find, if you're aiming where you need to aim, that people will have absolutely nothing. And so once you gather the data, you want to go to your financial kitchen. This is your laboratory. This is, like if you go to the doctor, they're going to maybe collect blood, they're going to take x-rays, they're going to do some things, and then they're going to analyze before they invite you to a second meeting so they can reveal what you have and what procedures are available to improve your condition. Our process is no different. It's exactly the same. You gather data, you then design. And this is where it gets exciting, because the tools that we are building now to help you design, these are tools that I'm telling you, either you pay thousands of dollars a month to have these tools, right? And some of the companies don't even have them. Even the ones that you pay $500 a month to have, and you have it here for free. And I'll reveal them to you right now. But after you go through the design process, you then meet with the client, right? Because in the first meeting, the close of the first meeting was to get a second meeting, which is where you come back and you show them what you were able to find, right? You were able to identify the symptoms and the consequences of doing nothing and what they need to do to have a better outcome. That's what happens in the second meeting. And so what you want to do is you want to know how to have this conversation in the second meeting and be able to present and articulate the different concepts you want to share. If they are out of whack in terms of their allocation and of their risk diversification, then you're going to have that conversation. If they're completely out of whack in the way that they're allocating tax-wise, meaning in the taxable buckets, then you want to address that. If they have a major gap in their insurance needs, then you want to tell them what that is and how much the cost is to what's the best way to close that gap. Maybe term or a combination of term with IUL. Whatever the case is, which is going to be different for every single individual or couple. It's going to be different for everybody, right? And it's a lot of things that play into that. The family dynamics, their financials, where they may be at right now. And then this second meeting, in many cases, if you did a good job preparing for it, you're going to be able to close. So this could be a 2-meeting type close. You go in there, you present the consequences of doing nothing, what they need to do to address it, and then you jump to action. So you can skip the adjustment in third meeting and you move right into action. Now, sometimes there may be some things that people may not be too familiar with, or not familiar, but comfortable. If you're recommending that they put 40% of their net worth into annuities, they may feel uncomfortable. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Because you're trying to solve a problem, but maybe they just need more education because they've had this idea about this annuity or whatever the case may be. It may not be the perfect design for them or something they feel comfortable with. And so that may need for you to close at that moment, give them education and do an adjustment. Go back and find something that aligns more to you still want to solve their problem, right? But you may have to do some adjustments. Or maybe they just need to make some adjustments and understanding more as they do their due diligence in some of the products that you're recommending. But eventually you get to that third meeting, right, where everything is better understood, and now you can, I guess, go back and look at the plan and then move into action. Moving into action is fill out all the applications needed to put the plan in motion. So there are certain skills that need to be learned to be able to navigate this journey with your client. And so what we're putting together is the ideas, right? The idea, so you need things that you can present. We have the BOPs, and this is going to blow your mind because what we're about to reveal maybe in a week or two is how you actually fill the room, whether that's for BOPs or whether that's for financial literacy, because everything starts with bodies that you can talk to, that you can educate, then the rest of the thing follows. The big domino here is getting the bodies. And things are at a point right now where that is getting a lot easier if you know what to do. So below these videos, you're going to have fill the room. If you want to fill the room with the BOP, we'll show you how to do that, in addition to picking up the phone and contacting people and helping like their natural markets. But what if you want to do that and also with people that are not in their natural markets? We'll show you how to fill the rooms. But you can see we have the BOPs. We have this new presentation. I want to get your feedback on. It's 30 basic financial concepts. I mean, this is the most basics of how money works, what money is. You can see what's compound interest, what is budgeting, what cash flow management, what's risk return, what's inflation, what's diversification, what's credit, what's allocation. These are just languages in investing versus savings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is 30 basic concepts that you can teach people that in the end, you're also inviting them to have a one-on-one consultation to also not just know the concepts, but also put a plan in place, right? Obviously, the IUL, the FIA, the IRA mastery, these things you have to know, but this is things you can actually present to do this first idea. So you're not short of what to show, what to present to people. Now, let's say you did that effectively. Now you have the first meeting. And this is where rubber meets the road, because how the first meeting goes is how the rest of the meetings are actually going to go, right? This is critical. So understanding how you're going to hold this, have this meeting, I give you the tools here, right? But then I also give you the audios down here. How do you actually conduct the meeting in full audio? It's very well put together. And if you don't want to hear it, you can actually read the order of discussion, like what you go through until you actually make your call to action, which is let's gather some data. But I'm telling you, if you come here and you spend 15 minutes, you'll understand how that 45 to 1 hour meeting is actually going to go, because it gives you the entire skeleton of how the body of a perfect first meeting. And I might just add a one where you have an actual client, like this will probably be like a 45 minutes to an hour actual conversation of how the first meeting goes. But I think in this time, and because you have smart brains, you should be able to understand it with 14 minutes, how it's supposed to go. So if you did this first meeting effectively, you're going to need to gather some data. And you have three options to gather the data. You have the paper PDF, as Kimberly said, she prefers to do it on paper. I love that. If you want to do it digital, you can also do that and then save it for your client profile. Now, what we did with the FNA, you're going to like a lot. You could go here and you can basically begin to fill out your FNA. You have the navigation here. You can always move from page to page. You can add. It's basically an exact replica of the financial needs analysis that's in Aristotle. The same one that Kimberly showed us. You fill it out. You go client information, retirement, about the family, the kids, the goals, the notes, the asset, this is the properties, the debt, the insurance, the income, estate. This is in the order. So when you're done, it actually produces a nice PDF, right? That you can save, which you can then refer back to when you are producing, when you are in the when you are in your lab, because this is what you're going to need. If you want to use the Aristotle FNA, you can do that as well. You have three options to collect the client's information: paper, digital, or obviously digital FNA over there. I would rather, because you have more flexibility, well, you choose. I leave it up to you to choose. The most important thing here is knowing how to have that first discussion. This is where a lot of things break. And what the first discussion basically adds is basically the 15 minutes of magic. Because remember, they're coming from the ideas step, right? So now you basically show them the three worlds of investments, the three buckets, and the X curve. And then you make them aware how much money they actually need to accumulate if they want to have a comfortable retirement, and what could happen if they pass away too soon. It's not for you to sell them insurance right at that moment, but it is to make them aware, oh, wow, maybe at these two or three common goals, it looks like I'm not fully prepared. And then you let them know that when you come back, you want to share with them a report that shows how prepared they are in terms of their cash flow, debt management, emergency, property, build, and wealth, right? Like you want to show them this at a minimum. So you gather the data. And once you gather the data, this is where the skills really are needed. And these tools will help you accelerate that. In the design stage, since you have that data sheet, you can now produce a 6 steps financial report, which is what you promised the client to be able to go back. And I'm just going to do this very, very quickly because it takes about less than a minute. That's why I like to do it here than in other platforms, because it could take an hour. Now, you don't do this in front of the client. Remember, you are now in your financial kitchen preparing for that second meeting. So I'm going to do it very quickly just before your eyes here. So I'm looking at my data sheet that I collected from the client. He told me he's 45, that he wants to retire at 67. He is married. So his wife is Lorena. And she is 40, and they have 4 children, right? That's the profile. He makes $12,000 a month. She makes $4,000 a month. They spend $10,000 a month, and they are currently saving. But they told me that they are allocating $1,000 towards their savings currently. Meaning that right here, I give you an immediate calculation of how much they're going to actually need to have an income net in retirement to meet the purchasing power of $10,000 today. But again, this is for you. Debt management. They still owe $150,000 on the home. They have $10,000 worth of credit card. They owe $15,000 on a car loan. She has $10,000 in student loans still, no personal debt, and they are paying $1,000 towards debt every month. They have some money in the bank, but they have not earmarked specific an amount for an emergency fund. So they don't have an emergency fund. In terms of protection, he has $750,000 currently on a term policy. She has $250,000, and that's it. We want to at least cover 10 years or replace 10 years worth of income at a minimum. It's not 10-year term, but if something happened, we want to make sure that they at least replace 10 years worth of income. And that's it. Let's look at the wealth. We aggregate all the wealth that they have. If they are married, obviously you should include the whole thing here. So let's say they have $300,000 worth of 401ks, and then they have $150,000 worth of IRAs. Maybe they have $50,000 in a brokerage account and $10,000 in the bank checking account. And no, they don't have a will or trust yet. So this leads you right to be able to have this conversation. Now, we don't have the time, but there is video where you can get trained on. I'll go through this very, very quickly, actually. So they have a savings shortfall. In order for them to be able to have the sizable nest egg they need to retire comfortably, they are about $2,800 that they need to be really saving to be able to accomplish the size of the nest egg. So either you're going to budget more, you're going to go out less, you're going to reduce your spending and be able to save more, or you're going to earn more money. If you're already capped, then you need to make $3,000 more a month. Maybe HGI would be a great opportunity for you to look into. Debt management, this is where you're at based on the $1,000 you're allocating to pay the debt. The avalanche method can get you out of debt in 47 months, the snowball about 50, and if you were to consider consolidation refinance, about 40 months to do that. If clients don't know, you have videos that show you these concepts right here. Emergency you don't have, we would say 3 to 6 months is the ideal. Like if you're still working and you're both working, maybe 3 months is fine. If you're retired, maybe looking more to 6 months of emergency funding. Insurance gap, you have $750, he has $250, but you need 2.7 based on your income. And if you want to replace it for 10 years and everything being paid off, you have a $1.4 million gap. And she needs 1.2, she has 250, so she has a 997 gap. So again, imagine you're meeting with this client and you're having these conversations, right? Then later you'll determine whether you're going to fill this gap with the combination of permanent and term, which is what I like to do. But right now it's just having the client understand where they're standing. In terms of wealth building, in order for them to make that $14,000 net income when they retire and be able to adjust that to inflation for 30 years, they need a nest egg of $4.4 million. Based on what they are currently saving and what they have, they are only going to get to about 2.8 million, assuming that it's a 7% growth rate compounded, right? Which is hypothetical, but that's, you're aiming for something like 6-7% to keep it not too crazy. So it means that they should be saving 3,000 really to get to that point, and they're only putting 1,000 so far, so they have a $2,800 gap. Right? And then the key here is just how much the size of your estate needs to be. How much of it needs to be tax-free? How much of it tax-deferred? We'll get into that. But here you're just basically showing them the gaps. What are the gaps? Then you can get into the other tools that help you move that money to the right place for risk management, for tax management, right? So you can produce the PDF. You can save the PDF in the client file. And again, you're getting ready to be able to meet with them soon. So you have 6 steps to financial security, and you basically have the report you're going to go through with them once you meet with them, right? To at least cover that. That makes sense? So now you have that first piece. But what did we just discover? I want you to have these numbers, keep these numbers in your head, because this is where it gets really exciting. Okay, this is where it gets really exciting. They have how much? Yeah, they have insurance gap. We know what they don't have, which is they need more insurance, and they also need to save more. But they have $300,000 in qualified money. They have, how much was it? I think like $100 or $150 in I remember. I wrote it and I even forgot. So you guys remember?
It's 150. and IRAs.
I think they had 150. Yeah, they had 300 in 401k and 150 in IRA, which is all qualified anyways, right? It's all probably at risk. So let me go back and share with you. This is how I would address it in my tools, right? Which is your tools. I go back to my financial kitchen and say, okay, well, this client has $450,000 all at risk. They have 10,000 in the bank, which was the only thing considered. So I'm going to show them how to be properly allocated. Now, write this down. This has helped me like you have no idea. I tell the clients when I'm having this conversation with them about risk diversification, I'm saying there's only two types of risk that you need to mitigate against. Two, that's it. One is, in the fancy term, non-systemic risk, and the other one is the systemic. I think the answer is in the name of each, right? The non-systemic, you address that by diversifying your portfolio, right? Because if a sector is suffering, let's say the industrial or the tech or the financial, whichever sector suffers, that's why you have diversification. But then there are events like COVID, 9/11, financial crisis, tariffs. There's these events that no matter how diversified you are, you're going down. It's going down, no matter what, no matter how diversified. And so this is where you need to mitigate. You need a strategy against that type now and in retirement. And that's what the R100 helps us do, which stands for the rule of 100. So I'm giving you something for you to consider, Mr. Mauricio, right? You said you're 45. You have total investments of what would be 450,000 in total, of which today you need 10,000 to live on. And in the world of protection, which includes CDs, savings, you have 10,000. In the hybrid, which includes index annuities, index universal life, you have nothing. And in the world of investments, you have 450,000. So this is how you are allocated right now. 10,000 here in protection and 450,000 over here. The rule of 100 says this ought to be our allocation. Maybe it's to increase if you want to have at least 6 months worth of reserve. That's optimum. Could be a little less, but no more than 214,000 at risk to then have 175,000 in the hybrid world, which is a world where if the markets go up, you get to participate in some of that. But if it goes down, you lose nothing. And the key or the reason to have or consider this allocation is because if in any event, especially when you're needing income, the markets tank 30%, you then lose a dime in the hybrid world, and you're able to get income off of that until you wait for the markets to recover and even hit new highs for you to start to switch your income to this other side. So this is true diversification. Just asset allocation, having 450 all over here isn't going to protect you from a total maybe suffering the portfolio if it's all there. So now you're setting the stage for the annuity and maybe the IUL if they have sufficient time to accumulate, but you're basing it based on the rule of 100, right? Which basically says that if you deduct the client's age from the 100, that should be the maximum they ought to consider having in the world of potential, which is where you make 30, lose 30 possibly. The hybrid only goes up, but it can go up much more than the protection can do. In other words, an index annuity, index universal life can go up much more than the savings account.
Wow.
And so you can adjust this, right, in time to do this. I think I'm past over time, right, Jody? There's so much to see here. But
Yeah,
I would print this, and then I can get into what the product is going to be. But I'm addressing that from a risk standpoint, and now it's making sense for the client. Oh, okay, so that's what this product would do. And we didn't even get into the other part, which is how did you allocate to be able to really be in a 0% tax bracket when you actually retire? Obviously, with all disclaimers, we're not tax advisors, and I guess most of us not investment advisors, but we are giving them these what is sort of the formulas in the proper allocation of the monies that can lead to the sale and the proper recommendation of the IULs and whatnot. I would say, Jody, maybe just one more minute to not continue getting into the specifics of the tools, just to show them a couple things in what they find in every stage of the way, which is the dialogues. Plan in place, you need to have the second meeting discussion. If you want to have a perfect second meeting that can help you close and show these tools as the client needs them, then we have that here. Then you can go to implementation. And what I found in implementation is a lot of people struggle learning how to produce the illustrations and explain the illustration like a true professional. Like, don't be afraid to show the guaranteed sides of it, but it's how you explain in a compliant way, in a way where the client is going to get you that illustration signed. It shows you here how to run the illustrations, so you don't have to be like scrambling all over. Like, how do I just need the 5 minutes. How do I run a nationwide, Corebridge, North American illustration? How do I run all these other companies? I am an implementation. Okay. Yeah. In design, I should say you have all the illustrations from every carrier, how to run them, and then also how to actually illustrate and sell. In other words, how to explain the illustration. And there's a 1 hour, 6 minute dialogue on how you actually present and explain.
Jamie has a sum of money from a 401.
So anyway, it teaches you what to say in the first meeting, second meeting, when you are showing them the illustrations, whether that's for an FIA, for an IUL, for a term, and even how to deliver a policy the right way. So the client's not going to cancel, no buyer's remorse, no Dave Ramsey is going to come take it away from you. None of that. It just shows you everything. And it's just, it's a lot of work for Tim in addition here. So
yeah,
let's go.
Well, Mauricio, thank you so much, obviously, for all your work and the effort that you and your team are putting into developing these things and making them available for us. I think everybody could agree there's a wealth of information right there at our fingertips. If you're anything like me, one of the questions is, how do I learn how to use it all? How do I learn how to do what Mauricio's talking about doing? And so what I want to do kind of to close out today is tie a bow around that. I happen to be an expert in education. I spent 8 years studying really hard to get a 4-year degree in education at the University of Georgia in Athens. So that was all to focus on my studies. It was not any other distractions while I was there. I can guarantee you that. But education is one of those things that it's not going to happen from just regurgitating and studying and doing all that kind of stuff. It's going to happen through learning while seeing it done. And so I want to bring all these things that we talked about today. Tim gave us a lot of information about what's going on in the economy. If you're overwhelmed, great. Everybody is. Even the experts are overwhelmed. But understand that we focus with our clients and with ourselves on one economy, and that is our personal economy or their personal economy. And those numbers are still going to be what we're going to talk about in those multiple appointments that Mauricio talked about. If you're a training associate and you haven't done your training sales, you haven't been promoted to associate yet, you're supposed to have somebody with you on every single meeting from start to finish. And you're going to learn so much by watching that being done. Your own needs analysis is part of our system too. So when you come in and you get started here, if you've got a very limited knowledge, that's going to be the best, most educational meeting that you're going to have as your trainer takes you through those appointments and goes through those things. Then secondly, from that, you're going to get trained. We want to make sure you're talking to people about their personal economy, about their investments, about their retirement. We want to make sure that you're trained the HGI way. We want to make sure that you understand how to articulate these concepts and that your clients are not practice for our new reps. We want to make sure that the experts are dealing with those things. But I will tell you that when you get out of training, that first appointment is what you should master. And you should be able to gather that data, gather all that information. And then when you go back to the lab, guess what? You can reach into, like Mauricio said, into your workshop or in your lab and pull out the experts you need. whether it be to bring in somebody else that's more qualified to talk about things and match up or split that business with them, or whether it be knowing the right people from the product providers to call and get those answers. That's why that multiple appointment system is very, very important. And then finally, what we're talking about is not rocket science, guys. We don't want,
It feels like it sometimes.
it really does, but we don't want our HGI representatives out there picking stocks or worried about standard deviation or alpha or the kind of things that you understand it and read it, right? Learn about those things so you can talk intelligently, but you don't have to know and understand all of that to build a successful, thriving business at HGI. You just have to open your mouth and talk to people and know that these tools are there. In talking to Jody a little bit a while before this call, we really know we need to focus on prospecting and presenting. And that's how you can determine. And when I say presenting, I don't mean presenting products. I don't mean those kind of things. I mean talking about HGI, talking about who we are and why we're a solid foundation, understanding how to articulate our business opportunity. That's the prospecting and presenting that you need to do. And then beyond that, we talked about this on our team call yesterday, aiming at recruits, aiming at growing your outlets, and then you will hit sales. They will happen. Because when you explain these concepts to people in the way that we explain them, there's no way to argue with it. When you talk about diversification and you talk about the flight to safety and guarantees and protection, everybody would love to have guarantees and protection. I can tell you we've had multiple clients that are saying thank you for talking to me before this market went crazy. And we have multiple people that said, I'm going to wait a little while, that are calling us and saying, dang it, I should have listened to you. And both of those to me are great phone calls, right? Because I've either got a happy client or I've got one that's on the way and realizing that what we said was correct and had value. So guys, I think this is a great call. It's a great opportunity. If there are a couple of questions, if anybody has about something that I said, I'm sure that we can get Mauricio to schedule some time and dive more into Abacus, not necessarily on this call, but at other times. And we'll sprinkle some of that in as we go through the Wednesday calls down the road. It's a lot of great tools and a lot of great information and a lot of effort, and his expertise, as well as his teams, have gone into putting that together. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see it. But I also want to maintain the understanding that every client or every person I sit down with doesn't need that, right? So that's why that first meeting you can say, oh, wow, these guys have a lot of debt. They don't have a lot of savings. There's not a lot we can do, but they're underinsured. And that second appointment's going to be simple. And like Mauricio said, it's going to be, you need some term insurance and this is how much it costs. Let's get it done. So knowing that and I just want you to feel comfortable after this call that you're in the right place. And that we have the right leadership, we have the right tools, and we have the right products. Whether you understand them all backwards and forwards does not impede your ability to build a monstrous organization here. Some of the people that I have seen that have made the most money in the financial services industry have not even signed applications. They have literally just built organizations and taught them how to use the tools that they had at their disposal, including our system and the leadership and all these financial tools. And they go build more agencies, build more people from that perspective. So remember, your personal economy is not directly tied to what's going on in the global economy or in the U.S. economy. It's tied to you and your behavior and your disciplines and your understanding of these basic concepts. And we need to articulate that to our prospects and to our team members as well. And that's what I would leave you with. And Kimberly, you want to wrap something up with that?
No, I think it's all amazing. And I love the growth of Abacus and the tools that are there and how it like, I feel like it's following my brain. I'm like, oh, yes, right? Like all those different pieces. So that's exciting to see. And it definitely will be as it continues to evolve. And just remember, in my opinion, the most important piece of all of this is that relationship with your client, period. If they don't like you and they don't trust you, they're not doing business with you, and you want them to be with you forever. So that's where you need to spend your time is creating that relationship and solidifying that, the relationship.
Yeah.
I have no other word for that, but
and
then ultimately
bringing in credibility only helps establish that trust.
Especially.
And so that's one of the big that's the teenager moves we see with a lot of people is they want to be the guy or they want to be the girl, they want to be the expert right out of the gate, and that a lot of times will hurt the trust that your prospects have with you more than it's going to help you with your credibility.
Yeah, and the only other thing that I'll leave you with is they're out of all of this, right? Everything that we have, there's still two things that we're looking for when we take this financial plan, when we ask all of these questions. Can anybody unmute and tell me those two things that we're looking for? Pop quiz.
Lump
know
sums and monthly.
Whoop, whoop. Lump sums and monthly money, right? That's it. Mauricio shouldn't have played that game because obviously he knows, right? But so anyway, just remember that. Like we distill it all back to simple lump sums and monthly money. That's what we're looking to see how we can help them reposition what they're currently doing to succeed in their financial plan. And if they don't have enough of either of those, then we go back to step one of the F&A, and that's increasing cash flow. And that's their issue, and we got to make more money, right? So happy Wednesday to you guys. I hope you enjoy your weekend and have plans for Easter and family time for the holiday weekend, and take a little time off, right? And we'll see you next week, same time, same place.